I'm going to analyze an episode of Season 5. I know, right? When watching Appaloosa's Most Wanted, I walked away with one main thought in my head. Holy crap, a horse that actually looks like a horse! And I realized that here was the opportunity to talk about a subject I've been sitting on for a while, the misconception of equine anatomy as it relates to friendship is magic. Let's start internally and work our way distally, shall we? First, let's start with the digestive system. Everyone goes on about ponies eat meat, yes they do, no they don't, blah blah blah. So one final answer for y'all. Can horses eat meat? Yes, of course they can. They can also eat cardboard, it doesn't make it good for them, nor the preferred method of receiving nutrients. Personally, I like to think the ponies in Equestria are vegetarian. This is more on a social level than anything. I like the idea of children's shows teaching kids to eat healthily, more or less, without having to shove it in their faces. And in pertains to the subject I brought up in my video on Dr. Wolf's channel, I like to think they raise pigs, well, for Fluttershy, so she can feed the meat to her omnivorous and carnivorous animals, and even for the sapient animals who do eat meat, like griffins and, well, Dr. Wolf. But meat consumption is a bit beside the point at the moment. My point is there are a lot of foods ponies in MLP have been shown to eat which would ironically be far more lethal to them than meat would be. But let's talk briefly about the equine digestive system. Horses and ponies are what we call hindgut fermenters. That is to say, herbivores that eat roughage, like hay, need a way of properly breaking down the food. Now, there are two main methods for this. Foregut fermenters, like Daisy Joe here, and other ruminants who have things like a four-chambered rumen, or stomach more or less, and do things like chew on their cud and whatnot to make sure that the food has been properly digested. On the other hand, we have hindgut fermenters like ponies, and Angel actually, that have a different method for the same problem. Rather than breaking it down early on, horses use their size to their advantage and let the food slowly move through their digestive system, in which their large colon manage to digest all of their food. Now in the case of lagomorphs like Angel here, as I said, they are also hindgut fermenters, but as you can imagine, their digestive system isn't nearly as long as that of horses or even a pony. So how can they manage it? Well, they practice coprophagia. Coprophagia is the practice of consuming one's own excrement, ideally for the purposes of digesting one's food for a second time. That's right, Angel eats his own shit. Take from that what you will. What were we talking about? Oh yes, equine diet. The fact of the matter is, I could stand here forever talking about all the things that ponies should not be eating, but I won't. I'll leave that to people like Littleshy.
I would love a daffodil and daisy sandwich.
Ponies have difficulty digesting daisies, and daffodils can actually be toxic. Tomatoes are poisonous to ponies. Angel's a diabolical little demon.
Next up, the skeletal system. Mostly, I'm going to be talking about locomotion. There are three basic types of locomotion. There's plantigrade, or standing on the plantar or palm of your foot, like you and I do. Then there's digigrade, which would be like standing on your tiptoes all the time, like your dog or cat do. Then there's equine locomotion in the form of being undulagrade. People can't really imitate this unless they're on point, and even then it doesn't really agree with one's feet for a long time, mainly because this would be the equivalent of standing on one's toenails, which is essentially what a hoof is, just a big old mass of keratin. How do you think we get away with nailing metal into it? Also, in the case of the equine, all other digits have been lost or reduced to vestige splints, except for the third digit, or the middle digit, or finger. So yes, ponies in MLP are constantly flipping you off. Have fun with that too. Where was I? Oh yes, ponies walk on the nails of their middle finger. As a point of reference, you know that cute little bump on their hind legs or hock? That would be the equivalent of the heel of your foot. I'm just gonna let that sink in. Now, how accurate is the show in remembering this? Well, in the case of equine skeletal system, I like to think the staff have this selective anatomical accuracy. 1 minute they're getting the structure right. The next is being overly humanized, usually for the sake of comedy or visual appeal. So, on the span of a few seconds in the show, we can go from accurate to, oh dear God, no! And now we move on to the largest organ, the skin, or the external anatomy. Now, I could give you an in-depth lesson on equine external anatomy, but I'm not gonna. Remember, I'm mostly here to discuss misconceptions, so I'm going to talk about the biggest misconception in equine anatomy that this show has been doing nothing but promoting: the flank. When you flank someone in, say, football or Dungeons and Dragons, is that coming up from behind someone? No, it's coming from someone at the sides. You see what I did there? I made it relevant for jocks and nerds. The flank would be the area of external anatomy associated with the size of your rib cage and above your hips. The area that the show keeps calling a flank is actually the croup or romp, but I guess the staff figured that'd be too suggestive? I don't know. I guess we'll just have to have a generation of kids grabbing the other kids' butts when asked to flank them in a flag football or something. In any event, I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I will see you later. Brony on, my friends.